Okay, so welcome. Thank you all for coming so much. My name is Bre. I'm the Family and Youth Program Manager here at Cancer Bridges. And tonight's conversation is going to be about having hard conversations, talking to teens and kids about tough topics. So we'll go through just kind of what tonight's going to look like. So what's going to happen first is I'm going to talk a little bit about Cancer Bridges. I think a lot of you are not maybe from the Pittsburgh area or maybe not aware of what Cancer Bridges is. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll talk about why this topic matters and why it's important to talk to children and have tough conversations with kids and teens. We'll talk a little bit about, kind of what they notice and how they know something's up before maybe we might even tell them. I'll go through the developmental understanding of a couple of different age groups and what we could say to them based on their developmental level. I will also give some words on how to talk to kids and teens about tough subjects and just leave some key takeaways with you, and then I'll share some resources too with you all. So about us. So we are an organization. Well, first of all, my name is Bre Regan, and I am the Family and Youth Program Manager here at Cancer Bridges. I am a certified child life specialist. I have been a certified child life specialist for 21 years. It was crazy after I calculated that. I am also a licensed associate professional counselor and working on my full licensure, which I will actually have in a couple of months. So that is my background. I have been working with children and their families for over 25 years in a variety of positions. And I am currently the Family and Youth Program Manager at Cancer Bridges. And I support children and teens who have been impacted by cancer in any way. And so that means we support anybody at Cancer Bridges. We support those that have been diagnosed with cancer or are past their cancer diagnosis and kind of living life that post-cancer treatment. We support those that are caring for or supporting those that are impacted by cancer. So if they have a loved one in their life that has cancer. And then we also support those that have lost a loved one or a friend to cancer. We are a local community-based nonprofit organization here in Pittsburgh, PA. It's pretty unique and pretty cool and pretty amazing to be able to offer free supports and programs to anybody that's been impacted by cancer. And although this educational talk is something that is being offered to anyone, our services that we offer here at Cancer Bridges are only available to those in the state of Pennsylvania. So please just know that our services that I will talk about are only available to people in the state. And that's because some of us have licenses that are only in the state of Pennsylvania. So we have to make sure our clinical practice is within state lines. So what we do at Cancer Bridges, we do a lot of stuff, and our website is listed on the slide, so be sure to check it out and all of the things that we offer. If you're looking for something similar where you're located and looking for supports, I'm happy to connect you. I'll share my email at the end of the presentation, and you can let me know if you need contact in your state or want more information on this type of support where you are, and I can try to help you find that. But at Cancer Bridges, we offer one-on-one short-term counseling. Supportive counseling for individuals in any of the categories I listed. We offer so many support groups. Some are diagnosis specific and some are more, we have a general cancer support group, we have a men's cancer support group and a women's, and we also have a support group for those supporting individuals with cancer. We have tons of health and wellness offerings. We have Reiki, we have a wellness studio, yoga, oncology massage. We have creative expressions classes that we offer, so therapeutic art. We have writing classes, jewelry making, tons of social events for our members that are here with us. We just had a Valentine's Day dinner for two, which was really beautiful and was nice to offer. And then we have programs available for any age. So we have adults, teens, and kids. And like I said, I'm the Family and Youth Program Manager, so I'm responsible for planning all of the events for the kids, and that includes pretty much everything I just listed for the adults, so that one-on-one short-term supportive counseling and explaining cancer to kids and how that impacts them and talking about their emotions and kind of how cancer has impacted their life and their coping skills. And we also have social events too for the family and youth program. And we also offer 4 different camps for the kids in the summer. And that's a great opportunity for kids to be around other kids who may be going through the same thing. So again, I'll share my email if you want any more information on any of that. I'm happy to share with you. But we're going to get started. So thinking about this topic, why does it matter? You know, some people are like, well, why would we have these tough conversations with kids? It's really hard as adults to have tough conversations with each other. So why is it important to have with kids? Before I start kind of talking about this, know that this presentation can be applied to any tough conversation you're going to have with a child. So it can be about a cancer diagnosis, it can be about divorce, it can be about moving, a death, any of that. But because I work mainly with children who have been impacted by cancer, the talk really is going to focus in on how to have that conversation with children and the words to use and what to think about when having that conversation. So first off, for those of you that might be caregivers or parents or even us professionals that are working with kids and their families or anybody, know that you're doing the best you can. I think a lot of us don't give ourselves enough credit that we're trying the best we can and with the information that we have. So know that if you're not doing these things, it's okay. And I'm gonna equip you with the tools that you need to have these conversations and hopefully have them in a way that's, you know, productive for everybody. So I just want to remind you of that, and I'll probably remind you of that multiple times too. So when you think about having tough conversations with kids, you might want to just avoid it. I know that I probably would, because it's hard. You want to protect them. You don't want to hurt them. You don't want them to, you know, be so upset about what's going on. And that's love. And that makes complete sense as to why you would want to do this. I'm here, like I said, to equip you with the information to help you make those decisions about what you want to share with them and how you want to share that with them. If you don't have kids, if you are here as an individual that is learning how to support kids or in a professional role where you do support kids, I'm hoping that this information will help you in your ability to share this with families and help them and give them the power to have these conversations with their kids. So another reason why this is really important is kids are really perceptive. So although we think maybe they don't know what's going on, I can guarantee you that they do. And we may try to shield them as adults, but they notice the very smallest changes in behavior. And I'll talk about that on our next slide. When we think about being silent and not telling them what's happening, silence often leads to kids imagining something worse. So they have great imaginations, as we can see through their play, but they're going to fill in the blanks, or they're going to let Google do it for them. And that can be, as we know, Dr. Google is not the nicest and can really give information that's not quite helpful. So that's another piece of why it is important to share with kids. And then honest communication, that really, in any relationship that we have, it really helps to build that trust and our emotional security with the others in our lives. So this only deepens our relationships with our kids. So if we do have that honest communication, as hard as it's going to be, it can really help make the situation less scary and help them learn to trust us even more. So we can really, by having this conversation, you know, make kids feel less alone in this scary situation. And I can guarantee you, because I've been doing this for a while and working with kids and teens, it's really hard for them because they feel so very alone. So the more we can help them feel less alone, the better it's going to be for them. So I'm going to be sharing a couple of videos throughout the presentation. They are being shared with permission from the Pickles Group. Maybe some of you have heard about the Pickles Group, but they are an amazing nonprofit that provides free peer-to-peer support and resources to kids that have been impacted by their parents' cancer. And so this was from a teen panel that they held, actually asking the kids, what do you want to hear? So I thought this was really good for this presentation because you're hearing it straight from their mouths. These are kids that have gone through the Pickles program and now are mentors. So they're just discussing, I have like 45-second clips, a couple videos that they're just discussing what they wanted to be able to hear. And so if you want to check out Pickles Group, their website's picklesgroups.org, but I really appreciate them allowing us to view this. If you have issues hearing this, please type it in the chat. Lisa will let me know. We should be okay though.
Particularly with what was going on with my mom, I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know everything about everything. But I mean, as like a lot of us have, like when we have a cough or something and Google it, the first thing that pops up is that we have some, awful like illness, like we're gonna die. And so every time I tried to Google what was going on with my mom, it just the first thing that popped up was the worst case scenario, and that was like terrifying. That I remember one time my mom, I couldn't go in with her, but she brought me to one of her chemo appointments, and one of the nurses sort of, and I was older, so it wasn't like a watered down sugar coated sort of thing. The nurse like told me everything that was going on, and from my mom's daughter perspective, it was very comforting to know that there were all these people. There was like probably 5 people with her at a time at least, making sure that she was okay, and that was so comforting to know. But also as like uh I don't know, like a learner, a student, it was very interesting to hear about. And I think it assured me so much to know what was going on with my mom, because number one, you know, I knew that there was no mystery. There was nothing that, like Patrick said, was going to take me by surprise if I knew what she was going through, and to help me formulate my, or I guess form words about my emotions. And like if I was having a hard time with something, I could be like, I'm really scared that this particular medical procedure is going to go wrong for my mom. I'm really scared that this isn't going to go the way that I want it to, and it just made everything feel a lot clearer and a lot less like daunting, sort of, and confusing.
I think that her, saying that she really wanted to know as much as she could. And she was very grateful for the nurses and that sat down with her and told her details about her mom's treatment and everything that was going on. It helped ease her anxiety. And so that's coming from a teen's mouth saying that she wanted to know this information. And I think it was helpful too for her to know the people that were caring for her mom. That was helpful for her to know and get to know them and know that her mom wasn't alone. And so with teens, and we'll talk a little bit about that, they really do like a lot of details. So we'll talk about teens when we get there, but I thought it was helpful to hear from her. So when we think about what do they notice, I said kids are perceptive. So what do they notice even when we think that they actually don't notice things? They thrive on routine, just like we do as adults. A lot of us really do very well when we have our routine. We probably take the same way to work every day. We probably get ready in the morning pretty much the same. And when that routine is disrupted, it can throw off your whole day. And the same thing goes with kids. They really, truly thrive on that. So it can be really dysregulating for them in any change in their routine. And they're going to notice when something changes in their routine. So they might notice that someone else is picking them up from school instead of dad. Or they might notice that mom is going to wake up with them in the mornings and help them get ready when dad's usually the one that does it. Or they might notice, hey, grandma hasn't been coming over as much as she used to. I wonder what's going on. Does she not like me anymore? So they're going to pick up on all of these changes and start imagining what might be happening. So kids also are very good at reading the emotional tone in the home. They're emotional barometers. So they may not understand the situation and why this is happening, but they can always sense when something is different. They can sense changes in their caregiver's behavior. They might notice tension. They might notice somebody is more tired than they used to be. And they might notice people are crying a little bit more than they're used to. And so even though no one explains why this is happening, kids are quick to pick up on these changes, especially in their caregivers' behaviors or moods. When they don't understand what they're seeing, then they start creating their own stories and making up why these things might be occurring. They might overhear whispered conversations in the corner of the room and think, oh no, I'm in trouble. I took that cookie from the countertop and I wasn't supposed to, and now they're talking about me and now they're upset and I'm causing all of this. They might notice if someone looks more tired or is not playing as much as they used to, or if they're in bed more often, they're going to pick up on those. When we think about even little babies, babies can pick up when their caregivers are anxious, when they're a little bit more tired, when they're feeling stressed. They can pick up on those cues. Even babies as young as like 2 months old can pick up on that. So we can imagine that older kids are really picking up on these changes in their caregivers' behaviors. So the key teaching point to this is kids don't need full details to know something's wrong. They're going to pick up on it pretty quickly. And so that's why it's important to have this conversation. So prior to thinking about having these tough conversations with kids, there's a couple of things that we would like to think about. We don't, it's not ideal to just be making toast one day and be like, oh, let's have this tough conversation. It's probably better to plan it out a little bit and think about what you might say. So a couple things to keep in mind is the developmental stage of the children that you're talking to. And that's just looking at where they are developmentally and what they can understand. So it's very important because younger children are not going to be able to understand or handle a ton of information, whereas we just heard from that teen, she wanted all of the details and they can understand much more and they probably want to know much more. Younger children, as I'll talk about in the next slides, they're very concrete in their thinking and they take everything very literally. So they might have worries that are different than what a teen might have. So tailoring that conversation to them is going to be important. If you aren't sure, where the child is on the developmental spectrum or where they are developmentally, it's important, maybe to ask the pediatrician, the child's pediatrician, or if you have a counselor or therapist that works with your child or someone like me, they can help you kind of understand what might be appropriate language to use with your child. And we'll talk about each age range to give, a gist of what that might look like. Talking with your parenting partner, or your village, whoever's helping you raise your child, whoever that might be and is going to be in that child's life, it's important to make sure everybody's on the same page and that you're using the same language and you're really on track and on an agreement of how you want to say it, how much you want to say, and when you want to say it. It's also really helpful, just like when giving a presentation or speaking to anybody, practicing the conversation can kind of help ease a little bit of the anxiety and maybe think about, oh, maybe I don't want to say it this way, or maybe I should say it this way. So that can be helpful. Planning a time is really helpful. So thinking about, do we have a long weekend coming up where the kids can process the information? Is there a lot of stress already happening? Maybe we should wait a little bit. Let's do it at a time of day where they can sit with the information and come back if they have questions. So thinking about a time that's good for everybody can be really helpful. Keeping it simple. So as with adults, we get very overwhelmed, especially if you're at the doctor and they're like telling you a ton of information that's very overwhelming. So I can imagine that kids are extremely overwhelmed if we give them a ton of information. So keeping it as simple as you can. For little kids, teeny little kids, preschoolers, I'll give more words, but an example for that would be daddy is sick. He will be in the hospital for a while. The doctors are working to help him. That is simple, basic information. For older children, the way we would change that is daddy has cancer. It is in his lungs. He is in the hospital for tests while doctors figure out the best way to treat the cancer. So still simple terms and simple sentences, but a little bit more detail as the kids get older. It's also important to be truthful, as hard as that is. It doesn't mean to go into every single detail. I know when I have surgery, I don't want to know what's happening at all to me when I'm having surgery, and most people don't. And so kids are the same. They don't want to know every gory detail, but it is important to be truthful. So if it does mean that the illness or the situation that you're in is serious, you should say so. Letting them know what might happen next. And, another example is letting them know if the person that does have cancer, if they're going to lose their hair because they're being treated by chemotherapy. So being truthful about those kinds of things can be very helpful. And again, a professional can kind of help you navigate some of those very tough conversations. Don't try to hide your feelings. It's so hard as adults because we want to protect kids as much as we can. And that means like being stoic and trying not to show that we have emotion. But it is important to say if you're sad or worried, it's okay. That shows them that that's also okay to feel that way. You want your child to know that it's okay for them to feel sad, angry, worried. And as you move through the situation and process your emotions, you're going to have to find healthy ways to deal with whatever situation you have going on. And your child's going to look to you for cues on, well, how are they doing this? If they're sad, are they crying? And then that shows them that's okay to cry too. And so that also comes down to getting help if you need it and talking to a healthcare professional or a clinical professional for both you and your child can be really helpful. Thinking about the daily lives. So children, as I've said, they thrive on routine. They always worry about what's going to happen to my life if you are going to chemotherapy, if you are going to be in the hospital. So letting them know, and coming up with a plan before you have the conversation. Hey, let's think about how we're going to get her to her soccer practice every day. And let's let her know that we are thinking of that and we're going to have a plan for her. And that can really help ease some of their worries they might have about that. And then being prepared for any reaction. Kids have a variety of reactions to hearing news like this. Some kids will respond right away and cry or get really angry and stomp away. Some kids might completely shut down and not say a thing. Other kids just be like, okay, and then they go back to playing. All of these reactions are completely normal. And so it's important to be prepared for kind of like, for any type of reaction that you might see. A lot of times it's important to have these check-in times. So after you have the conversation, maybe revisit the next day. Hey, I wanted to check in with you. Did you have any questions after what we talked about yesterday? Give them time to process. Let them know you're here if they have questions. And then the last one, asking for help. It's, crucial. If anybody needs help, again, in Pennsylvania, we are here. We can connect you with resources. If not, you can ask your pediatrician for support or, any recommendations that they might have. You could also just look for a certified child life specialist in your state. Many certified child life specialists now have private practices. You can look for a Wonders and Worries registered provider. They are trained specifically in helping individuals cope with challenging situations. So those are some examples of what we can do. So I'm going to go through the ages. Before I do that, Lisa, are there any questions in the chat? I don't know if I can hear you. Or does anybody have any questions? I'm happy to help.
No, I do not see any questions yet.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to check in. Perfect. So we'll start with I'm going to start with preschoolers because infants and toddlers, it's not about the words that we're going to use. It's more about their behaviors and ways that we can help maintain their routine. And I'm happy to, if people have questions about infants and toddlers, I'm happy to address those if you really do. I can help you with that. But I figured with preschoolers is where we're really going to start having those conversations. And so that's ages 3 to 5. And with these kids, they have those huge imaginations. They love to make up things. They love imaginary plays. And going along with that, they think in these very concrete and literal ways. So what you say to them, they take very literally. So if you say to them, somebody's going to take mom's blood, they think, oh my gosh, they're taking all of my mother's blood. And what are they doing with it? And where are they taking it to? So it's important to be careful with the words we use with this age because they can take it and run with their imaginations. So being careful with that. They don't understand time well. So if you say, oh, I'm going to have surgery in a month, they're not going to have a clue what that means. So that is not super helpful to give them a timeline like that. Like I said, they engage in that magical thinking. So they come up with reasons as to why these things might have happened. And they're also very egocentric, as we have learned and heard about preschoolers. And that means that they think essentially that the world revolves around them and that what they do has an impact on everything. So I said I was mad at my mom because I couldn't stay up past my bedtime and now she has cancer and it's all my fault. So that is important to keep in mind with this age range, that they might have a lot of guilt and they might think they actually caused it. And they definitely feel separation and changes very deeply. And so keeping that routine and all of that can be helpful. Worries that they have at this age is it my fault? Can I catch it? So if it is a disease or illness, can I catch it? Where is my caregiver going? Why are they at the hospital? Why are they not home? And who's going to take care of me? That's a huge one across all ages. Who's going to help take care of me if the person that usually is here is not able to do that? So thinking about this age, using simple and clear words. Again, professionals can help with the language that can be used. Short explanations can be really helpful. They're probably going to need the information repeated to them multiple times, and the conversation is probably going to happen several times in order to really help them understand what's going on. And then connecting explanations to their daily life. So mom's not going to be able to pick you up after ballet practice tonight, and Uncle Mike is going to be there, and this is why, and kind of helping them understand that. So an example language for a preschooler could be, Mom has an illness called cancer. You did not cause it and you cannot catch it. There's nothing you did or anyone did to cause it. And the doctors are helping her, and we will keep taking care of you every day. And if they ask what cancer is, there are words to help describe that. I'm happy to provide those resources if you want them. Tools to do this, books. There's plenty of great books. I'll share a book list with all of you. There's ways that we can use art and draw and through play. I love using play with kids this age, role playing, what they think is going to happen, getting a doctor's kit out, seeing what they do with that. And that helps me understand what they're understanding. And then maintaining routines as much as possible can be helpful with this age as well. So the school agers, ages around 7 to 12, they become a little bit more logical in their thinking, but some of them in those younger ages are still pretty concrete and take things pretty literally. So that's important to keep in mind. They can understand basic body illnesses and concepts. So they probably at this point, unfortunately, have heard the word cancer and have heard of different illnesses and know a little bit of what they are. Kids at this age also are very curious about how things work and how the body works. They tend to like to know information like that. Not all of them, but most of them do. They are aware something serious could happen, but they may not grasp like the probability of it happening to their person. So they're aware it could happen, but connecting the dots sometimes is difficult. And they can identify and talk about their feelings with help from adults. Their common worries at this age are, is my person going to get better? What's going to change for me in my life? Again, it's that routine. Kids at this age love their friends. Their friends are so important to them, and school's actually really important to them too. So they want to know, like, is this going to change school? Is this going to change how I see my friends? And another question they might have is, what happens if treatment doesn't work? I often get that question pretty much off the bat. What's going to happen if this doesn't work? That's a big question for them. So helpful tools for this age is using diagrams of the body, showing pictures, talking about cells in the body, or giving simple explanation of the body. They love that kind of stuff. Also, journals can be helpful at this age if kids like doing that. Family meetings, and then again, those predictable schedules. Example language sort of for this age that makes it, this is talking about chemo. This medicine might make dad very tired and cause his hair to fall out. This means that the medicine is working hard. You can always ask me questions even later if you have them, and not to be afraid of asking questions. So that's an example for that age. And then teenagers, I always like to ask teens how much they want to know in detail, because some teens really do thrive on some details. And this would be after having a conversation with parents if I'm doing it as a professional, making sure everybody's on the same page. But a lot of teens do like to know a lot. It helps ease their anxiety. So with teens, they definitely think abstract at this age, just like we do as adults, and they think very future oriented. So how's this going to impact my future? How does this impact me? Is this going to happen to me when I get older? They understand seriousness of illness, including death. So this is something that they are able to connect dots that it could be a possibility. And I say they may research information on their own. I can guarantee you they're researching information on their own. They're on TikTok, they're on Snapchat, they're on X, which used to be Twitter, they're on Facebook, they're on Google. They're trying to research everything on their own, which is why it's important for us to arm them with the correct information. At this age, they're also very aware of how this impacts their family emotionally. They're aware how other people in the family might be feeling, and they might want to feel as though they have to take over, they have to help as much as they can. They want to try to fix things at this age. They also might hide their feelings and questions and just act like everything's okay because they don't want to add any more burden to anybody in the family. This is pretty common. So allowing them that space to feel and letting them know that it's okay to feel that way is going to be really important. And we know that kids at this age have a strong need for independence and their friends. So that can be really challenging if they're being relied on and maybe not able to hang out with their friends as much. Their common worries at this age is, how bad is it really? Like, tell me the truth. How bad is it really? What's going to happen long term? Do I have to step up and take care of things? What's my role going to be in this? And why is this happening to our family? I feel like that's everybody's response. Like, why is this happening? Why? But that's definitely happening with teens. And helpful tools for them are definitely one-on-one conversations, sitting down with them and just discussing things, texting or notes if face-to-face is hard for them. So just having like an open text line or an email inbox that's just for questions that they can type at 2 a.m. if they're awake thinking about it, and have that question sitting there and can process it that way. And then counseling or peer support can be helpful. And again, the routine, maintaining as much as a normal routine as possible is going to be helpful. So example language for teens, this can be serious and we don't have all the answers yet. I want you to hear all of the truth from me. The doctors and nurses are doing everything they can, and I will let you know if anything changes. You don't have to pretend to be okay. I am here whenever you want to talk. I think the big piece of this is, I will let you know if anything changes. A lot of times kids are like, they're just telling me everything's fine, but it's not, and they're not telling me the truth. So letting them know if and when things change, you are going to be one of the first people to know, can kind of help ease that anxiety they might have. Here's another video that I have just about how it was helpful for him knowing.
So another thing that helped me, and I don't think really is used by too many people, is be as open with your kids as possible. Like, as it's progressing, tell them everything, because the worst thing as a child is not knowing when it's going to happen. I'm lucky I got time with him, and I'm lucky I was told every step of the way. So when the day did come, I was prepared and in a better state than I would have been if I was completely taken by surprise and had no idea this was going on. I think that helped me kind of slowly kind of prepare myself for the inevitable. And I think that kind of helped me cope, because it was like, okay, he's at this stage, he's at this, none of it was a surprise, it was all expected. And I think kind of calmed me down, because when the day
I see that there might be a question in the chat or a comment. I just can't get to it.
No, not yet.
Oh, okay, I just thought maybe it was a private chat just to me that maybe I can read at the end, possible. Thank you, Lisa. Okay. I also can't hear these videos when they're playing, but I've watched them multiple times. So I think from what I remember of him when he was speaking, it was about I think it was his father who had passed away, and it was helpful for him to know kind of when it was going to happen, and all of that, for him to prepare and to have those moments that he wanted to have with his dad. So for him, that was really, although it was hard to hear, it was really helpful for him to hear that. So that can be really helpful to hear from a teen. So common concerns that parents, caregivers, people that are, working with kids might have, why they don't want to tell them, is like, I don't want to scare them. Well, of course you don't. You love your kids. We don't want to hurt them at all. You don't want to hurt anybody. So that's very valid concern. I don't know the right words. Yeah, I went to school for a very long time and trained for a long time to know the right words for every developmental age and how to use them and how to correct myself if I say something wrong. So yeah, that's really fair, not having the right words. I'm too emotional to talk about this. Yeah, for sure. Especially if it's happening to you, that's challenging. But remembering that it's okay to have emotions and it's okay to show them, just not at a time maybe when it's really intense. That might be challenging to do. I might not say it perfectly. Well, nobody's perfect, and that's okay. And the good thing about kids is that they give us so many chances to mess it up and get it right again, and they forgive pretty easily. So that's so fair, but kids will be pretty cool with that. I might cry. Yeah, that's okay. They might cry with you. I might want to stay strong and not show my emotions. Yeah, and that's a lot of what a lot of adults want to do. And, that's important to think about, and how might you do that, and how might you be, if you do cry and you wanted to stay strong, how might that affect you? So perfect words aren't required. Presence and honesty matter so much more. Just being there and just being honest is what kids really love. Kids don't need us to be emotionalists. They need us to be steady. They need us to be there and continue to support them and continue to show up. So we don't have to take away the hard reality to give a child a sense of security and connection and honesty and love. I do see a question. I do have a question in regards on how to help teens transition from a caregiver who has passed away and their relationship with their living guardian. Yeah, that's a really good question, Catherine. Question in regards on how to help teens transition from a caregiver. Yeah, so I think there's other questions around that, and I guess that depends on the situation. If it is their living guardian, I would hope and assume that they already had a relationship with them prior, right? And so they already know them. Hopefully they already have a relationship kind of established. So the person has already passed away.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I guess what I'm saying is like after like the one parent has passed and then now they're with their living parent
Mhm.
and they feel like they still have to maybe take care of their living parent
Mhm.
or help them cope through the grief.
Mhm.
And so then it's preventing them from like attending school or being engaged in, you know, regular activities because they're concerned about the parent. So who do you address those? How do you
Yeah.
address that conversation?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a really good question, though. And it's a teen, so they definitely often think that they need to take over that and be the one that's tough and that holds the family together. So what I like to do with teens, especially at that age, is first examine why they think they need to do that, and we kind of maybe whatever they like. If they like playing games, doing crafts, just talking, writing it down, let's think about why. Why is this something that you feel like you have to do? And examining that with them. And then one activity that I do like to do, because a lot of times with grief and with anxiety and with sadness, it's that loss of control. You know, feeling that loss of control is so hard. And so this could be an instance where this child or this teen wants to have control over something to help them feel better. And so doing an activity like the circle of control with them and just drawing a circle, and let's think about all the things that we do have control over: our emotions, us going to school, us studying, us, talking to our friends, all the things that we can control. And on the outside of that, what are the things that we unfortunately don't have control over? And one of those things is other people's emotions, how other people react to grief, how other people decide to handle their grief. And so helping them examine that although you want to be helpful and you want to help your living caregiver, you want to support them through this, you feel responsible for helping them, that ultimately we're not responsible for other people and how they cope with that. And so taking that burden off of them and helping them realize that can be helpful. It takes a while for sure. And it takes a while for adults to do that too. But that can be
Thank
helpful.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
sure. Okay, so I think I'm going to the next slide at this point. I get distracted pretty easily, so. Next one, so questions you can ask. Let me see time here. Okay, so questions that you can start before you start the conversation with kids. Can you tell me what you know about A, B, and C? What do you think happens to somebody that has cancer? What have you been thinking about lately? I love making observations about kids. You seem kind of angry today because you've been slamming a lot of doors. I want to talk about, I wonder what might make you feel that way. I wonder what's going through your head as you slam a door. How can I help you? Or what do you need? All of those can be really helpful questions. And you can screenshot this. We'll also post this on our YouTube, so you'll be able to view it and get the information if you want it. Words to use. This is just a slide from Bright Spot Network. They're also a great organization that supports parents, really, who are navigating parenting kids that the parents have cancer. But these are great words that can be used. Using the word cancer is extremely important, and just some of the other things that I've already discussed. So these are another examples of that. Other words to use, instead of saying everything's fine, which is a word that a lot of us, I know a phrase that I like to use a lot too. Everything's fine. It's fine. Try saying, hey, things are hard right now, but we're going to handle them together, or we'll get through this together, or we're going to navigate this together. Don't worry. I wonder how many times everybody on this call has heard that term, because I hear it a lot. It's like when people tell you to calm down, and never in the history of calming down has everyone ever calmed down by being told to calm down. Same thing with worrying. Don't worry doesn't help worry go away. Man, I wish it would. It would be so helpful. But instead of saying that, maybe saying it makes sense to have worries. It makes sense why you might be worried about this. Let's talk about these worries that you might be having. Another one that a lot of people that have been diagnosed with cancer, that are currently going through treatment with cancer, will hear is like, be strong. And I know my friend, when she was going through treatment, she's like, man, I don't want to be strong. I didn't choose to have this. I didn't choose to have to want to be strong. Sometimes I just want to sit here and cry because this is so awful. And so instead of saying maybe be strong, saying, you know what, you don't have to be strong all the time. It's okay to have days where you're not feeling so good. And you don't feel like you want to be strong and you just want to lay here and cry and not get out of bed. That's okay too. So those things can be very helpful for teens. Another thing that might be, or for not any kid, another thing that might be helpful, instead of saying everything is going to be okay, which is like the same thing as everything's going to be fine. We don't know that everything is going to be okay. We can't promise that everything actually is going to be okay. Another one is don't cry. That's a tough one. A lot of times when people say don't cry, it's because they're uncomfortable with the other person crying. So instead of don't cry, just say it's okay to cry if you need to. I'm okay with that. Another one to kind of avoid is you're the man or you're the woman of the house now. That's putting a lot of burden or responsibility on that person. So it can be important to not say that. Could be very helpful. Some replacement terms could be, you know what, I don't have all the answers right now, but I'm here with you and we can try to navigate this together. And another one that I love to say to anybody in my life, it's okay to feel however you feel. However you feel, when you feel it, that's okay. And not to be ashamed of that. All right, one last video. If I can get there. Oh.
Sometimes I just want, like Francesca said, my feelings to be validated. And like, I don't want a solution, and I don't want people to just tell me like it's gonna be okay. And sometimes I do need that. But sometimes I just want people to be like, yeah, it does really suck. And like, yeah, what you're going through is really hard. And like, just kind of just sit with me and like in my, like sit by me, like while I'm processing and like feeling the emotions, like really helps. And not necessarily, like Francesca said, giving a solution or advice or like telling you it's going to be okay. I think that sometimes that like really is the solution, or that like is kind of needed. But sometimes it's just like the people who help you the most, especially like for me, is like the people who would just kind of be like, yeah, this is so hard, and like come and, you know, not like be sad with me, but like in a way like be sad with me and not try to cheer me up, but just like sometimes I just want, like Francesca said, my feelings to be validated. And like I don't want a solution.
I think I totally played that again because I can't hear, so I apologize. And I'm sorry if I stopped it early. Essentially, what I enjoyed, hold on, she's still talking. What I enjoyed about what she said in this video is just that concept of being with. So if you ever think about a day that you're having that's like really bad and you're really upset and you're really sad, and think about if somebody comes up to you and is like, oh, it's gonna be fine. Let's distract you and go play basketball, or let's talk about something else and not about this, versus somebody that says, man, that really sucks, and just sits down next to you and says, I'm here when you need me. Just think about how those two different things kind of help make you feel. I would think that the one of the person that says this really sucks and I'm going to sit here with you in this darkness and in this sadness and this anger, whatever it is probably going to feel a little bit better to you, versus somebody that's trying to offer a solution or tell you, oh, it'll get better eventually. Because when you're in the thick of it, you don't care that it's going to be better eventually. You're sitting in the crap, and you just need somebody to say, you know, not even that I get it, just that I'm here, and I'm here when you need to say something. And she essentially said that in that video. I thought she did a really nice job of communicating that. So what if you have kids that don't like to talk? That happens, especially those lovely teens. So one of my families really gave me this idea. They keep a family journal. And the kids who are 10 and 13 every night take turns taking the journal. And while they're in their rooms at night unwinding, they get to write any questions that they might have. And then they leave it on the counter in the morning and they go to school, and then the parents can read them. And then the parents will answer them in there too. And so, and if they feel like it has to be a conversation that happens in person or needs to really be addressed, then they do have a family conversation about it. But it's a comfortable way for the kids to kind of get out those questions without like maybe feeling embarrassed or like feeling like a burden. Questions jar, I have a huge questions jar here that every kid that I work with, I have them write down questions that they might have, any kind of question. I've gotten so many questions about cancer, and then they put it in there and we pull them out and we read some of them. I also put questions in there myself that I think are very important to be answered. So if the kid doesn't ask it, I will be sure to pull those ones out and ask them too. And we did a questions jar during our camp this year, and the kids we read some questions every morning during camp, and the kids had some really good ones. So this is another way for them to like ask without asking. Playing games. Uno, Candyland, Connect Four, Chutes and Ladders, turning them into just create questions. Every time you take a turn, you have to answer a question or you have to ask a question. For Uno, I always like, if you draw a red card, you have to say an I wish statement. If you draw a blue card, you have to say an I wonder statement. And that really gets them thinking, well, they still get to play cool games that they love. These bullseyes, I did this, I don't know if this is I don't think it's gonna play. I don't know what I did with the screen over here. So, oh yeah, there we go. I did this with a family. We wrote down emotions that we have about dad's cancer diagnosis and went outside when there was snow on the ground here in Pittsburgh and threw snowballs at all of those emotions, and then talked about why they felt that way and what they could do to maybe cope with them. So you can do this in the summer. We do it with wet paper towels and wail those at it, or you can fill up syringes and squirt water at them too. Side-by-side conversations. Car rides are always a great time to get kids' attention and have those conversations. Throwing a baseball in the backyard, kicking a soccer ball, good times to just start having conversations. And watching the kids play. There are so many times, especially like in a play kitchen, that I've watched kids play, and the things that they say while they're talking on that pretend phone, I'm like, oh man, I'm learning so much about their life. So just listening when they're playing or setting up play, like setting out medical materials, dolls, and watching them and listening to them, you're going to hear maybe questions that they might have, concerns they might have, what they might be thinking just in their play and behaviors. So that can be extremely helpful as well. Ooh. Okay, and then these are just some key takeaways to, sum up everything. So no matter the age, kids and teens need to hear, this is not your fault. You can't catch this. Nothing you did caused this. You can ask questions at any time, and it's okay to feel however you feel. And for caregivers, for us that are working with kids, for those of you that are future child life specialists or professionals working with kids, you're doing the best you can with the information that you have. Please remember that you're doing the very best you can. It's tough being a parent. It's tough being a caregiver, let alone a parent or a caregiver that's going through a really challenging time. That just adds on a whole nother layer of parenting and doing these things. And it's okay to make mistakes. We all do. And kids, like I said, they're so forgiving, and repair is really easy and possible with kids and going in and repairing that. So if you take anything away, those are, give yourself some grace. And then these are just books. Again, this will be shared on our YouTube, but these are from Bright Spot Network. So they have a great resource library of their books, and I just screenshotted a couple of them. So I have some books for kids. I can't read that. I'm sorry. Oh, books for kids with a parent with cancer. I often use the Someone You Love Has Cancer. I think it's a really good one, but I'm not, trying to sell that or anything like that. The What Happens When Someone I Love Has Cancer. But all these books are wonderful, and you can choose it based on the age of the kid and what your kid likes. And then these ones are for teens and can be really helpful too. And some of them are specific to the type of cancer. And like I said, Bright Spot Network has a bunch of other categories as well. There's even a book for kids that have autism that helps explain cancer for those kids, which can be really helpful to have. And then this slide just shows other resources, other organizations. I didn't list all of them because there's so many, but these are ones that I am aware of and that I've used some information from. So Camp Kesem, Wonders and Worries, Bright Spot Network, Pickles, and Hearts Connected can all be very helpful with resources and directing families to go to if they have questions. So this is my contact information. That's my email. It's just bre@cancerbridges.org. That's our phone number. You can just call and ask for me, or that's my extension. And if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to come off mute, or if you just want to throw them in the chat. And if not, I thank you all so much for coming. And I hope that I, helped a little bit understanding this topic.